SilverStone have been making cases for years. Today we have the PS15 case, which is SilverStone's kind of 6-month case, but I thought I'd have a look at it. 3 reasons why you should actually take a look at this case is that it's got a big mesh front to breathe, and it can support a 240 radiator on the front, and on the back we can support a 120 radiator on the back, which has 5 holes to slow it down so it does not interfere with the actual heat sinks on your motherboard. So when you see this case, this normally has tempered glass on the front, which I've obviously taken off. There is no tint to the glass at all, but it's got a border with a nice little triangle or chopped edges to make it look a little bit more aesthetically pleasing. And the glass is about 3mm thick, but it's still decent. And then the side panel is quite decent. I'm doing a flex test at the moment. There is no sound dampening inside, and this is where you can put your fingers and obviously pull the side panel off. So in this case, what is included in this case? Why should I think about purchasing this case? Well, this case is in a nice price bracket, which we'll talk about later. But what you get with this case, you get 2 120mm fans that are RGB that can be synced and connected to any software using Gigabyte, MSI, ASRock, also Asus. On the back, we've got a 120mm normal standard black fan. These fans are all DC fans, so they're not PWM fans, they're DC. You can see that there's no shroud here, but we've got like a protruding place where you can put a mechanical hard drive, which is right there. And yes, you can put a 3.5-inch mechanical hard drive here. You can also put an SSD or a 2.5-inch mechanical hard drive. And this could actually fit 4 2.5-inch mechanical hard drives or 4 SSDs in here as well. So 2 here, 1 there, and 1 inside as well, inside the tray. Talking about the tray, I'll pull the tray out, and this is where you can put the other SSD and screw it down to, or another 2.5-inch mechanical hard drive. Also, what I like about this case straight off the bat is that the standoffs are already colored and coded black. They're already screwed in as well for your actual motherboard. If you're using a mini ITX, it will go here. If you're using Micro-ATX, then it will obviously go here. And if you're using DTX, then it will be slightly bigger as well. You can see there's a big cutout for your CPU air cooler or your AIO cooler, depending on what you're going to be using. You've got where you can place your 24-pin, your EPS connector, your graphics card. All cables could come through here as a pass-through right next to the mechanical hard drive. We do have a pass-through right here as well. And where you can see here is that you can see that there's cable tie points. And then we've got other cables that we can bring through, like USB 3, which is included as well. And as you can see, it's like a double barrel rounded off cable, which is slightly different. I wished it would have been flat cabled, but saying that, at least it's really nicely covered. Molex connector as well, and you're asking me, why is there a Molex connector in this case? Well, if we take a look to the front of the case, you can see this is where the SilverStone logo will be illuminated, but it's illuminated in blue, so you can't change any other colors, and that's the way it is. So if you've got like your RGB, addressable RGBs going off on your actual case, then it's going to look a little bit awkward. But then you can just take the Molex cable out and it's not there. But it's just, this is such a small case that it's relevant to being there. So talking about the cables, as you can see, 12-volt cables for the RGB. They only go in one way. If I get these cables here, I have to plug these in as the female parts to go into the motherboard, and that's how I would get the RGBs working, but they only go in one way, so that's pretty cool. But I don't really know why unless they've done this, if you've got an LED connector, you plug it in, no, it still won't work. I don't know. It's a bit weird. But anyway, they've added male ends for RGB, which should have been female ends, because then you can plug it straight into the motherboard for a 12-volt connectors. So if you haven't got a 12-volt connector, these will not be working, and it's just more clutter with the cables. So at the top of this case, you can see there's a routing spot there as well for the EPS, so 4-pin or 8-pin that goes at the top. Your CPU air cooler fan cable for PWM or DC. It's going your motherboard, as well as a normal air cooler as well. It's got a nice cut out space for it, so that's pretty good. And if you've got a mini ITX motherboard, then normally they'll have an M.2 or NVMe at the back, so it's got enough space to be obviously get your hands and stick and put another hard drive in. So that's pretty good. And underneath the case, we do have a filter, very simple chicken wire looking thing to wipe and stuff. It looks like 120mm size. We have a centimetre and a bit of clearance from the actual case as well. They're just plastic tabs, no rubber bits at the bottom at all. On the front, we can pull the front. And this is where it reveals the filter, which is in here as well. So chicken wire as well. Well, not chicken wire. It's like chicken wire, but it's you can easily wipe this clean, and then it's already done. You just put it back in. But it's not as easy as what it looks like to put it back in. But anyway, we've still got the grill, which is a good intake for cool air and stuff. So it's brilliant. I like that. I like the aesthetic design of it, but it also is not killing off the components with the heat and stuff. So that's pretty decent. The only thing is I don't like where the cables are connected, because when you put it really hard, it could break the cables. But this looks like it's pretty in nicely. It's got USB connected into there, and this is connected to the circuit board. We've got screws that we can undo that, and if we did have a problem, we could obviously just use a soldering iron. And this is screwed in as well, taped down, and this is where the Molex connector is for the SilverStone logo that's in blue. Let's turn the case around. So you can see clearly on this case, if I leave it at this sort of angle, that it's really hard, but you've only got less than a centimetre of clearance for cable management. Now this barely fits in there, but it does work. Now this case is not meant to be used with the most high performance motherboards or graphics cards or CPU in it, but technically it could be, because it's really well thought out. It's got really good ventilation, so you could put a 120mm radiator on the back, as I said, and 240 in front, or 120 at the front, and then you'd be on your way. Now these are flat cut, and that means it gives it more durability to make it a little bit solid. And you do have rubber grommets as well to put in for your 2.5-inch mechanical hard drives, so if they vibrate you can use that, or you can use it just to screw in an SSD, and then you've got TAF points all around the case. In this bag, you also get rubber grommets for your mechanical 2.5-inch hard drive or 2.5-inch hard drive. So you can actually slot these into the spaces on this case, and then that's how you screw them down and it stays in place. Normally, I wouldn't use 4 though, I'll just normally use 2. This case also has a 1-year warranty, and it doesn't come with any instructions, because the instructions could be downloaded via the link that I'll provide in the link in the description down below as well. We do have a magnetic filter at the top, which I don't think I even mentioned, and you can put 240 fans at the top or 120 at the top to help exhaust heat from your fins from your motherboard. On the back we have 4 brackets, Pci brackets. We've got one that is to use with a screw, and the rest are basically you have to break these tabs off, but once you broke them off, then you'll have to obviously find some around the house, or if you've got any other Pci brackets, you can obviously screw it back. If you're not using a graphics card, you're just using onboard graphics, you can do that. And as I said earlier, I would like to see that as a slot, but some people probably might like it as it might be easier to fit in where you're putting it in your fan, your 120mm fan. I think this is irrelevant, this bracket, but it's to hold up a graphics card, but yeah. And then we've got like little pads as well to stop vibration for your power supply. Talking about the power supply, now this is a ROG for 850 watt platinum power supply. Now SilverStone's clear say that you can put this size normal ATX power supply in, and as you can see, you can, and it's just got enough clearance but it's going to be pretty difficult getting cables through, unless you start using this as a 24 pin to go through, and you can still make it look quite nice and drag it through. But this is what I was going to say. So if I fed that through real quick, and then I had a mini ITX motherboard, you could see clearly that's how much cable it would be. But it's not too bad, it's not too bad. But if you're using spaghetti junction cables, then it's going to make it look a little bit horrible. So you could make this case look nice. But anyway, this is like quite a lot of cables I've got in there, full size power supply, like top of range, and it fits in this case no problem whatsoever. But if I was you, I'd probably go down the other route. So let me put this out the way. I'll probably go down the SilverStone route, which is 650 watt power supply. This is a bronze plus, so if I move it out the way, it looks a little bit smaller. So this is a 650 watt power supply. That's probably what I'd be using for this build. I've got a little bit of overclocking headroom if I want to overclock slightly, but not majorly, then I could do. So, and I've got enough room for the cables to route through as well. So that's nice. And plus, SilverStone do flat cables. So this is going to be nice and easy to use for this case if you're going to use it as well. So I've got the SilverStone PF120, and this is quite new. And it works with Aura Sync, Polychrome Sync, RGB, Fusion Sync, MSI Sync, and I think that's with Biostar for racing. Now I asked for a 240, but they didn't have that. So I've got a 120, and I can just show you quickly what a radiator would look like if I was going to put it in here. So you imagine having your motherboard and radiator connected. That's what it will kind of look like. So hopefully that helps. So this case will cost you $59.99. But it's sold out from the recommended place that I would actually tell you to go and get it from. So I'm going to leave a link in the description down below to see if there's any more places that you can actually buy this from. But I know they do a white version and a black version without RGB, and this one with RGB, which sets you about $59.99. So the black and the white one should be a little bit cheaper. On the top of this case, you do have a 3.5mm jack for a headphone and microphone jack, and also an LED reader for your hard disk drive, so you know what activity is going on, making sure the hard drive is working, as well as a power button and 2 USB 3s. We have a support up to 314mm for a graphics card with a width restriction of 151mm. We've got a CPU up to limitation of 154mm and a PSU limitation of 150mm. Also, this case comes in 3 flavors: white, black without any RGB, and this one, black with RGB. So this is the end of the review. Hope you liked it. Comment down below about what you think about this case. Would you be buying this case? Is this case for you? Is there enough information that I put in this video for you? Subscribe and share like crazy so everyone knows about this case. And look at me on all social media platforms. There's a blog as well, MXDOUT blog. Check that out. It'll be a written description, more close-up pictures, more detailed information down about this case. Anyway, I'm Roger and I'm out. Thanks for watching.